There's a point in everyone's financial life when the numbers suddenly start to behave differently. For years, you've been saving, investing, doing everything you're supposed to, but the growth feels microscopic. It's like watching grass grow. Then, one year, something strange happens. Your balance jumps more than you expected. You realize the gains alone are bigger than what you contributed. And for the first time it hits you, your money is finally pulling its own weight. That moment isn't luck. It's not timing the market or finding the perfect stock. It's the point where compound growth stops being theory and starts being momentum. What most people don't know is that this transformation doesn't happen just once. It happens 3 times, at 3 specific milestones that quietly turn slow progress into explosive growth. Cross those tipping points, and your net worth stops inching forward. It starts accelerating. We're taught to think about money like it's a math problem you can solve with effort. Work more, save more, earn more, and the results should follow in a straight line. But wealth doesn't move in straight lines. It curves. In the beginning, the slope is almost flat. You're putting in all the energy, all the discipline, and your account barely budges. It feels unfair, like the game is rigged for someone else. That's because compounding hides its power at first. Growth is happening, just not enough for your brain to notice. It's like the first 20 minutes of boiling water. All that heat going in, but nothing seems to change until suddenly, everything does. The people who get frustrated and quit during that quiet phase never see the curve start to bend upward. But the ones who stay, they reach the point where effort becomes optional, where the math itself starts to do the heavy lifting. And that's exactly what happens at the first tipping point. Tipping point number 1, when growth outruns your contributions. The first tipping point sneaks up quietly. There's no celebration, no obvious sign you've crossed it. But once it happens, everything about wealth building starts to feel different. It's the moment your portfolio earns more in a single year than you add to it. That's the first real shift, when your money officially becomes a teammate instead of a passenger. Let's say you're saving $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. At the start, those contributions are doing nearly all the work. You might earn a few $100s in growth, barely enough to notice. But once your investments reach around $100,000, the balance begins to tilt. A 10% return adds $10,000, more than your annual contributions. That's the turning point where you start to feel it. Progress without strain. Your account grows even on days when you do nothing. And psychologically, that's huge, because it's the first time the results start to feel disconnected from effort. You've moved from building momentum to owning it. From here on, the numbers start working faster than your calendar. Tipping point number 2, when your portfolio matches your paycheck. If the first tipping point feels like progress, the second one feels like power. It's the moment your investments earn as much as your job does. Let's say your annual income is $60,000. At this stage, your portfolio might be around $600,000, and with a 10% average return, your money just produced the same $60,000, quietly, automatically. That realization changes everything, because you've effectively cloned yourself. One version of you goes to work, answers emails, sits in traffic. The other version, your portfolio, works 24/7, doesn't need sleep, and never asks for a raise. This is where people start to relax around money for the first time. You don't have to love your job anymore, you get to choose it. The fear of layoffs fades, because you know that even if something goes wrong, you have a second income stream silently growing in the background. And that's what true leverage feels like. When your money's productivity matches your own, you stop seeing wealth as a finish line and start seeing it as a system that can run with or without you. Tipping point number 3, when work becomes optional. The third tipping point isn't about numbers anymore. It's about peace. It's the moment when your investments can sustain your life, when work shifts from a necessity to a choice. At this level, your portfolio has crossed roughly $1.25 million. Withdraw 4% a year, and you're generating $50,000 in income, forever. That's not retirement in the traditional sense. It's independence. You can still work if you want to, but only if it matters to you. You can take a year off, start something new, or walk away from a job that drains you, without panic, without permission. This is what real wealth feels like, not luxury, not excess, freedom. The quiet knowing that your life is funded, not by luck, not by hustle, but by the slow, steady math that's been compounding in the background for years. And once you cross this point, your relationship with time completely changes, because every dollar you've ever saved is now earning more hours of your life back. The hidden phase, where most people quit too early. The truth is, most people never reach these tipping points, not because they can't, but because they stop too soon. The early years of building wealth are quiet and frustrating. You're doing everything right, saving, investing, staying consistent, but your balance moves like it's stuck in slow motion. It's discouraging. You question if it's even working, and that's usually the moment when people pull back, right before the curve starts to bend. The math of compounding is cruel at first. The first $100,000 might take close to a decade, but the next 100,000 takes half that time, then half again. Soon, your portfolio grows faster than your contributions, and that's when everything accelerates. The explosion always comes after the boredom, but you only see it if you stay long enough to let the math catch up with your effort. That's the hidden phase, the part no one celebrates, the part where it looks like nothing's happening, when in reality, everything is being built. The real reward, freedom, not just numbers. At some point, money stops being the scoreboard. You stop thinking in terms of how much do I have, and start thinking in terms of how much life do I control. Because wealth, in its real form, is measured in options. The option to slow down, the option to say no, the option to wake up without an alarm and decide what the day is worth to you. That's what happens when compounding finally does its work. You stop living for the next paycheck because your investments quietly replaced it. Bills stop feeling like threats and start feeling like small, predictable details. The background noise of financial stress that's followed you for years goes silent, and in that silence, something incredible happens. You start to hear yourself again. You remember what you actually wanted before money became the obstacle. The trip you put off for someday, the business idea you buried under maybe later, the hobbies, the health, the time with people you love. When your net worth grows large enough, those things stop being luxuries. They become normal again. This is the part nobody tells you about wealth, the emotional return on investment. Every dollar you saved, and every month you stayed disciplined, wasn't about collecting money. It was about collecting freedom in tiny, invisible pieces. And when they finally add up, freedom compounds just like interest. It gives you back time, confidence, and peace of mind. And those are things no market correction can take away. True wealth isn't loud. It doesn't need validation. It's the quiet knowing that you own your days and that the life you're living is funded by patience, not pressure. That's when you realize the goal was never to be rich. The goal was to be free. So when does your net worth actually explode? Not after a promotion. Not after a lucky investment. It happens quietly, somewhere between discipline and time. Because the truth is, you don't feel the explosion when it starts. You only see it in hindsight, when you realize your money's been growing faster than you ever could. The first tipping point gives you momentum, the second gives you confidence, the third gives you freedom, and everything after that? That's compound interest, rewriting your future in real time. If you're in the slow part of the climb right now, keep going. The math is already working in your favor, even if you can't see it yet. When it hits, it won't feel like luck. It'll feel like finally being paid back for every year you stayed in the game. Watch next. 7 signs you're secretly getting rich. It'll show you how to spot the quiet signals that your financial momentum has already begun, even before the explosion shows up on paper.